Hi folks, I thought we might do a little bit of a walk through assessment 2. I know we've talked about it, we've had a class, we've had Kate's class, we've talked about it in discussion forums, so I thought I might just try and bring it all together in this short explanation. So I'm going to start with assessment 3 because that's really where assessment 2 is leading to. And so your task is to decide which one of these technologies you wish to discuss. Okay, so that's your first choice to make. And then you have to decide what kind of environment you're going to situate this technology in. So as you can see here, there's, different sort of choices that you can make of information organizations. Now, what I will say is that you aren't going to be choosing one single specific organization. So, for example, you're not going to be talking about robotics in Whoop Whoop Public Library, okay? You can talk about your technology in libraries in general, or archives or museums or galleries in general. So in that case, if you made that choice, you would be covering how that particular technology might be used across that particular information environment. All right, so if you talk about libraries as an overall thing, then you might be pulling into your discussion, let's just say we're going with robotics, how academic libraries are using robotics, how public libraries might use robotics, etc. Okay, but you are not going to be saying how one specific public library or one specific academic library uses that technology. You would use examples. But what I'm saying is that you don't base your whole paper on one library or one archive. If you want to use a subset of libraries or archives, look, I'm just going to say library, and please just apply that to all the different sorts of organizations rather than me going through them all the time. If you wish to apply that technology, let's say in academic libraries, that's fine. If you want to talk about how public libraries are using your technology, that's fine. If you want to discuss a subset of archives, because archives deal in information maybe in quite different ways depending on what they're actually archiving. So let's say, for example, a film archive might use digitization in a different way to a paper archive. So you could talk about film archives in general, but you won't be basing your whole paper on one specific archive. So you can pull in examples from different archives. Let's say you wanted to use film archives, then there would be examples not just in Australia but overseas that you could use. Okay, I hope that sort of makes sense. So I'm just trying to situate your technology into an organization type, a subset of that organization type, for example, public libraries, but not one specific library. You can use examples, of course, to illustrate your points. All right, so that's the choice you have to make around assessment 3. And look, if anything isn't clear, you know that you just need to get back to me and ask. Let's go back up to assessment 2 now. And let's talk first about your the annotated bibliography part. So you need to do some searching, and I hope that you have watched Kate's class because she has outlined how you can find these particular resources. She outlined the difference between a scholarly and a professional article. So if you haven't watched that class, please go back and watch it. It has some very important information in it. You will do some searching that will uncover the following 5 items, so you need 2 scholarly journal articles. And don't forget that you can tell if an article is peer-reviewed by going to the library website and looking in Ulrichs. So you need 2 scholarly articles, 1 professional article, 1 book, print or ebook, and 1 reputable website. So if you're not quite sure how to evaluate all your different items, don't forget, I'm just going to skip over here, that the research guide is here. All right, so this is going to help you to do things like evaluating whether your resources are appropriate. So this is a little bit about peer-reviewed articles. There's a bit about internet resources. Okay, so don't forget to use this guide. It really is very helpful. You can see there's some videos in there as well. And it's specifically there for you, you know, for this particular subject. So explore the different tabs. The find one here will help you with your research, so it will help you to find different types of information. Okay, and then the evaluate one as well is really important for this particular task. So once you have found your 5 items, you're going to put them in alphabetical order. Your citations must be in APA 7th style, so please use the guide to make sure you get them right. And then you're going to provide an annotation for each of the 5 resources. Okay, now we went through in the class what you should include in the annotation. Don't forget that that document, this one, is there in the Interact site, so that will help you with how you write your annotated bibliography and how you structure your annotations. Okay, so just to reiterate what I said in class, you don't have to use these numbers and you don't have to use the colors. They are basically there to help you to identify the different parts of the annotation. All right, so please look at that resource, but please, you don't need to put the numbers or the colors in. They're really just there to help you to break this annotation up into its components. Okay. All right, so once you've done that, you have found your resources, you've written your annotations, you will then go on to write a draft introduction to Assessment 3. So this is your chance to brush up on your academic writing and to think about how you're going to introduce your paper in Assessment 3. All right, so I think we went through a little bit in the academic skills class that we had the other night. So please, if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch it. Talked a little bit about academic writing. Now, if you use any references in your introduction, then you need to put a reference list at the end of the introduction. I wouldn't expect, excuse me, that you would use all of your 5 items out of your annotated bibliography in your introduction. All right, it would be very unlikely to pack all 5 items into the introduction. So with the presentation, don't forget that there are some presentation guidelines. All right, I can just find them. Here we are. These are the presentation guidelines for the School of Information Communication Studies. These lay out how you should structure your work, how you should place it on the page. Okay, so not adding things like borders and unnecessary extras to your assessment. That's really not important. This part, some of you in Assessment 1 didn't do these things. Okay, so please try and format your document properly. And don't forget to use the APA presentation proper style for your references. All right, let's go back. All right, we're just going to have a quick look at the rubric and then I'll wrap this up. So when you have done your assessment, please go through the rubric because this is what we have in front of us while we're marking. So have a look at the criteria, have a look at the different levels and see where you think your paper lies. So let's just break this down a bit. So this first one, demonstrating an understanding of key factors relating to information literacy and information seeking, this is centered around your resources, around your annotation, your annotated bibliography. So if you look at that high distinction level there, obviously we don't know your search strategies, we don't have your keywords, we don't know which databases you used, but we can tell from the results from the items that you put in your bibliography whether you've used a good search strategy and you have come up with some really highly appropriate resources. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a tickle. So this first part is centered around your annotated bibliography. It's talking about the resources you've chosen, and it's talking about the way you have annotated them. All right, so that's the factors relating to information literacy and information seeking behavior, that you have done good searches, come up with good resources, and provided good annotations. The second bit is a bit about the technology. So this will be based on not only the items that you choose in your bibliography, so we can see that they're very relevant to your topic, but also that your introduction shows that you understand what you're going to be writing about. Okay, so we want some evidence that you're understanding how your particular technology will be implemented in your chosen organizations, and thinking about, positives and negatives. So obviously an introduction is a short piece. It's not very long. So you have to edit carefully. You have to choose your words carefully, and you have to be very clear what you will talk about when you do your actual paper. So that's another 10 marks. The last 10 marks are wrapped up with the presentation and writing skills. So this is what we just looked at, the presentation guidelines. Don't forget, they're there, they're very easy to find. We're also talking about the way that you write. So, are you demonstrating good academic writing skills? Do your sentences make sense? Are your paragraphs make sense? Do you don't have a sentence that's 4 miles long? That you've proofread and you've corrected grammatical errors and spelling errors. That's all wrapped up with sophisticated academic writing. And obviously that your referencing is correct. All right, so that really is just following the guide. And because the items in your bibliography are fairly straightforward, it's fairly easy to reference articles, books, and simple websites. That shouldn't be difficult. All right, so don't forget you need to use both in-text citations and a reference list. All right, I hope that has helped a little bit to bring everything together. Please make sure that you get back to me. We will have another chat about this before the assessment is actually due. But I hope that kind of brings everything into focus for you.